Start up. Hold on. Okay, and we're live streaming as well.
Okay, if you could click on your window for the actual presentation now.
Yeah, we lose that every time that I click on the
Thank
thing
you.
to stream it. Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the public meeting of the Nodejs Board of Directors. Real quick, Todd, can we get a final roll call again? Because I think one other member may have joined. So.
Yeah, so from the directors, Todd from IBM, Scott from Joyent, Ashley from individual membership, Mark from Intel, Brian from Groupon, Gara from Microsoft, Dan from NodeSource, Rod from the TSC, Justin from Google, and those are the directors on.
Great. Okay. All right. This is the dial-in information. You would have seen it if you're on the call. Antitrust compliance notice, same as always. If you have any questions about this, please contact our counsel, Andy Eptigrove, for any clarifications. Our member directory hasn't really changed. We need to get Snick into this. My bad. Snick is now a member. we'll get that into the next one. That is totally my bad. Okay, first order of business, approval of the public minutes. Resolved that the minutes of the public session from November 2016 meeting of the Board of Directors in the form hereto attached as Exhibit A is hereby confirmed, approved, and adopted. Can I get a motion in a second?
Motion to approve. Second.
This is just for the public minutes?
Just the public, yeah.
Okay, cool.
All those in favor?
I have a question.
Sorry. Actually, sorry. Did you have a question about the public minutes?
No, I have a problem or issue with the private minutes.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get to that when we get to that slide. Okay. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Yes. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion passes unanimously. Moving along, so we have some new directors. So welcome Gaurav from Microsoft.
Do we not approve the private minutes? Oh, I guess we do that in the private meeting.
We do it in the
Never
private
mind.
Yeah. We have Gaurav here. Gaurav, do you want to say hello?
Yeah, hello everyone.
So Gaurav is replacing Colleen from Microsoft. So we just need to ratify this at the board level. Resolved that the board hereby acknowledges the appointment of Gaurav Seth as Microsoft's representative of the board of directors. Can I get a motion in a second?
Motion to approve.
Yeah, motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion passes unanimously. Moving along, Mark Scarpness from Intel is also joining us. You want to say hello, Mark?
Hi, everyone.
All right. Resolved that the board hereby acknowledges the appointment of Mark Scarpness as Intel's representative to the board of directors. Can I get a motion in a second?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion passes unanimously. Daniel Shaw. So D. Shaw won the gold coin toss, so he's sticking around this year as well. But we need to ratify his position on the board as well for the gold director membership. So resolved that the board hereby acknowledges the appointment of Dan Shaw as the gold membership director. Can I get a motion in a second?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion passed unanimously. All right. We also have a new individual director. So Faros Bugadija's term is up, and we just had an election which William Kapke won. So congratulations to William. Why don't you say hi?
Hello everyone.
Hello.
Howdy.
Having me.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah. All right. So the resolved that the board hereby acknowledges the appointment of William Kapke as the individual membership director. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion passes unanimously. All right. TSC update. Rod, why don't you give us an update from the TSC?
Sorry, just pulling over my car. Okay, TSC's got a couple of things going on. Just quickly with regard to releases, we have a security release going out this week. Just it's fairly minor OpenSSL update. The impact to Node is pretty low, so that's coming out this week. We'll be announcing that within, I think, 24 hours they should be going up. So that's that. At the second last TSC meeting, we finally merged the TSC scope document that I've been working on for a while, and this is as a result of the last in-person board meeting approximately a year ago, where we talked about scope of activities of the various branches of the foundation, and it was requested that TSC come up with a scope for its work, and so we have adopted that, and it's now in our README, at TSC README, so you can go to github.com/nodejs/TSC, and you will see a section in there that is TSC scope, and that's the scope of the work that we do on the technical side of the foundation. So it's fairly limited. It's mainly based around Node Core and supporting projects around that, and it states that whenever we want to increase the scope beyond what is listed there, so beyond what is obviously Node Core, say if we wanted to bring on a new project that was completely unrelated to Node Core, then we would need to have a discussion with the board. So we would seek board approval for that increase in scope. Where it doesn't increase the scope, then we just go ahead and do it. And so speaking of which, we have brought on a new project. There is a project called Node Inspect. It's not to be confused with Node Inspector. It's Node-Inspect. And this is a replacement for the inbuilt Node.js command line debugger, which is going to be it's going to not work soon because of the V8. V8's basically dropping support for how we do that, and it's not very well supported code anyway. So somebody has written a replacement for that using a very new V8 feature that we are shipping, the V8 Inspector protocol. So it's basically a feature-for-feature replacement of the command line debugger, and it's being pulled into the Node.js Foundation in the GitHub repo. It may eventually ship with Node Core, but even if it doesn't, it's a viable replacement for the command line debugger. So that's something that we have taken on. And lastly, you may have seen an email go around about the legal committee. The TSC is requesting the legal committee look at at two proposed pull requests that changed the copyright headers in source files. So this was a request that came through from the legal committee, and it's now going back to the legal committee for some questions and approval. So that's, I believe, going through the board to the legal committee to get approval or comment and then come back again. So I think that's it from the TSC. William, do you have anything else that I've forgotten there?
There was a rename of Node report, right? Not a major thing, just a rename, npm package change.
Can I ask a quick question about why Will is representing the TSC in this meeting?
Will is not representing the TSC. Will, I'm just asking Will because Will participates in TSC meeting and he has a better memory than I do, so that's all. So yeah, Node report was renamed from Node report one word to Node-report. So that's a simple change. It sounds like that's all we have to report. So that's TSC. Are there any other questions?
I just want to make sure that in the same way I can't represent my employer, NPM, in these meetings, that Will's role here is going to be representing the individual members and not helping you represent the TSC.
I think it's been made clear, I don't even represent the TSC. Actually, I represent myself, as do you, and as does Will. So there's no representing going on here. I'm simply voted on by the TSC.
I don't know if that I personally didn't
Any other
understand what
questions?
you meant there.
Yeah,
Does anyone else share my concern about TSC updates coming from individual membership representation?
The audio was a little bit garbled there. I think that there's a difference here between trying to suss out everything that happened in the TSC and actually having somebody represent for lack of a better term, the opinion or the escalation of anything from the TSC. So.
I think in general, I was just trying to represent things I saw across the entire organization rather than TSC, and I hope that I could also vocalize things that I see in the community committee once that's moving along further.
Actually, William is not a member of the TSC. He participates in our meetings, and you are welcome to participate as well. William happens to have a really good memory for these things, better than I do. So by pulling him in, I'm simply requesting that he refresh my memory on anything forgotten. But you're more than welcome to join us on TSC meetings if you would like to participate in these as well.
Okay. We've got a lot of agenda to get through. I want to knock through the rest of these. So, quick update from the community committee. So Tracy has a draft charter that was attached to Exhibit B. It's still under review on the community side of things, but for those of us participating in that review, it's coming along nicely and nearing kind of the final stages. So, if any board members want to talk about or review that document, it's in pretty much the state that it's going to end up getting passed in, with just a couple of minor changes, it looks like.
So when do you expect it to come in for a vote?
Tracy?
Yeah, are you talking about the charter itself?
Yeah. I mean,
so
it'll come to the board. It'll come to the board to get ratified, but
right.
We're just
So the charter's in a good place, being PR'd right now. We've gotten some really good feedback so far. And some members of the TSC as well as the community have been giving some really good input. That's really grown off it's on the shoulders of giants. So it's from a lot of the work the TSC had learned. But I think I absolutely expect it to be in the next meeting in February.
So we're going to do this as one of the items on the face-to-face agenda then?
Yep.
Yeah, and I actually hope to get that to you way sooner so that y'all can review it, because it is a lot of words, a lot of details.
I think as it is now attached as the exhibit, it's pretty much in the state that is probably better than a lot of the documents that already exist on the technical side. It's now in a process of review where it's being improved kind of beyond and with what we've learned from some of those documents. So it's come along really nicely. But we'll definitely have that up in 2 weeks from today at the in-person meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And then the next is our biweekly updates. So we realized that there's been a lot of places that we can improve on communication with, even what the Node Foundation team is doing internally. So I'm going to start publishing a biweekly update into the community committee repo. So that more folks can be aware of that. It's not going to be like a Medium post. It's not going to be super lengthy, but we want people to know what's going on, sort of what's moving, and all of those things that are going to be posted are going to be things that are, of course, already approved through initiatives that we're doing, and by the suggestion of the board. So we're just looking forward to being able to provide more transparency into that.
Should we tweet out a link from the foundation or something just to make people aware?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And that first, we haven't done the first publishing yet. That first will be, I believe, next week, because it's based off of some work that happened this week.
Yeah, it'll definitely get integrated into the Twitter outreach and also the weekly newsletters as well. So.
Okay.
Yeah, the evangelism team gets CC'd on all of these things.
Yeah, not everybody opens up the newsletter, but they might see a tweet.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
Yep.
True.
And then I think the last of that for the community committee, we've got ongoing outreach for more groups. We need to hear from more people, though. So if you're part of somebody in the ecosystem who's really contributing to Node through code or through events, we want to hear from you. We want to see how we can be helping one another or connect one another And that's what the committee is for, is to give those voices. So we're pushing everyone towards the community committee repo and engage in conversation there. And then the final part of that.
Wait, Tracy, can I just jump in for a second?
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
I just wanted to, yeah, no, it's really cool. First off, this is super awesome. Is there a specific place inside that repo to point people to if, say, like, I wanted to draft up something that we could all share to send out to people that we could do outreach for? Like, kind of like a form-ish kind of letter to try and get more people involved?
That I would just say open a new issue and get that going. That would be amazing.
All right,
No,
cool.
we don't have anything currently. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take that on. That sounds good.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and then finally, just the inclusivity strategy update. So the first strategy point was the community committee organization. So we're getting that moving along. Another point that we have movement on, or at least is actively engaged in conversation, is the refactor of our online communication channel. The current discussion around that was Slack versus IRC. It is a very thoughtful discussion that's happening right now, and that has not been decided. So we'll see how that goes. But I think that we're getting really good insight from people on either side to how we can have an improved dialogue through online chat. And it's looking like there are there's a lot of great opinions on that. So it's exciting that people are so passionate about it.
How will the decision get made?
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, the decision for me was just going to be through an overwhelming majority of people. And I think that that's a really good question, because the problem there is that you can have people really engaged in the conversation itself, but that's very different than like a majority of community members who are just trying to use IRC or Slack and not the ones in the decision making. So
Right.
I think I would like to see more of that conversation happening in that issue on GitHub, because I'm not going to make that decision by myself.
Can we have some kind of?
Can
Can we open up a vote somehow in a tool and just take your pick kind of thing, and put it into the issue and ask people to vote, and make people broadly aware so that we get some real sense.
Well,
because the issue doesn't have a real large following, right?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple things that we need to sort of tease apart here, though. One is the board needs to be involved in where we allocate time and resources into either creating a new channel or helping support an existing one. The second part of this is that there's an existing community of maintainers and like people that are moderating the IRC channel that also want support, at least at the level of moving the access owner from being Isaac to the foundation, things like that. So maybe that we have other things that they're going to ask us for outside of the scope of potentially creating a new channel that we'll also need to bring back to the board.
Well, it's not creating a new channel, it's consolidating potentially existing ones, because there are communities for the Node project that exist in Slack currently as well.
Right. So yeah, there's like, I think that the discussion right now isn't at the point where you would want to say, here are the things that we would vote on, or here's exactly where we would spend our time. But once we get near a place, we're actually going to need some input from the board on how the resources get allocated as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm assuming we're allocating funds and people, so.
Yeah, I mean, people more than funds. I don't think that even if we wanted to pay for Slack, we don't have the money to pay for a Slack the size of which we expect that community to grow, because paid Slack is per user, and it's if you compare kind of our community to any of the other programming communities that are on there, you very quickly reach a size and scope that we can't.
That's why I asked the question, because I knew it was going to be prohibitively expensive. So.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and we actually talked to. So I am in the midst of planning a call with another programming community that does operate under Slack, and they've got about 12,000 members. So I'm interested to hear their take. But we've also talked to, I think, another foundation who had attempted the paid Slack, and it was extreme. It was not a fun thing to watch those costs soar. So
yeah,
we'll see. But yeah, that's it on the community. That's yep.
Okay, cool. Moving along. We're getting into the 2016 report now. So this is something that we compiled. We've been trying to get all the stats together of how we did in 2016. Eventually, we'll probably work this into like a really pretty document that we can share out more publicly. But right now, we really just wanted to share and get feedback on some of the metrics that we have just with the board here. So first in 2016, we did a bunch of events. Here are the registration numbers for each of those events. Live, as you can see, we vary between about 150 to 300 depending on which location it was.
Question, Michael. Where'd you get that Bangalore number?
That's the registration number because we ran the registration system. Also, the reason why LA isn't exact is because we did not run the registration system. So
Okay, just because I am nearly 100% sure that number is not correct.
Yes.
I think it was way larger.
It was way larger than 138.
Yeah, it was
I have
like
a
twice
picture.
that number.
Yeah, I have a photo that shows the entire crowd that is, you could count more than 138 people there.
No, I'm gonna chalk this up to that may have been my typo and not Michael. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
cool, yeah. I just wanted to point out that I am, like, Bangalore was definitely closer to Beijing so it was, like, definitely bigger than London. So yeah, I just am a little concerned about those numbers.
Yeah, I mean, the caveat here is that we don't have exact numbers for how many people showed up. We only have exact numbers for registration. So, for instance, Chicago got rained out, so we had way less than the registration number.
Just as a correction,
Bangalore,
the
it looks like we had more.
372. It was 372.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's me. Yeah, that was a copy and paste error on my part. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, no, it's all cool. I was just, like, wondering if I had a strange malaria drug dream about having a million people there. But yeah, okay, cool. We should update that though, because I feel like we should know how strong our Bangalore following is, because they are very into us.
Yep. I think in order for the larger document that we end up producing, we'll probably take these numbers and sum them up as a global number for what we reach with the Node.js Live stuff. So we'll be relying a little bit less on the exact numbers of each event.
Oh, I think saying the exact numbers of each location is really important to point out that there's like significantly large populations of Node developers that are in places that we wouldn't expect. I think that's actually extremely important. I would
yes.
suggest that you not do that.
So we have a lot of other metrics that show that a little bit better though. So for instance, the website has a geographic distribution that's really, really accurate and can give us a picture into like areas that we didn't actually do an event in. So yeah, we're compiling all kinds of data. But yeah, so interactive, as you can see, we reached about 726 in Austin, which was our highest event. Any other questions about these before we move along?
Michael, do we typically track, how many of these are people who are coming for the first time versus are a repeat attendee of a Node event?
We do for interactive via so we actually know it from just the regular data, but we also have a really detailed survey that we do for the interactive events, and we actually have a pretty high participation rate for that survey as well. So yeah, and if you're in any of the marketing committee channels, you've actually already had access to that data in particular.
Okay.
Okay. Moving along, core.
Michael, when are we going to, sorry to jump in, when are we going to set the target for how big we want Vancouver to be? Because, I would like to see those numbers grow well over 1,000. I know that should be easy if we, sort of line things up, avoid conflicts like we had last year and such.
Yeah, so the upper cap of what we can do was sort of set in the exploratory phase last year when we started looking at venues. Because obviously, if we said, well, what about 5,000 people, that would be significantly more expensive in just getting a venue, and we had to get the venue as of last year. So we have an upper end of, it's either 11 or 1,200 for this year's venue in Vancouver. but the real target, that we're confident in, I actually think that we're going to sell it out, but we'll be discussing that in a lot more detail when we go through the budget and we go through some of the targets for both sponsorship and tickets, which we're discussing in the private session this meeting, and then we'll have some information in the public session actually in 2 weeks for the February one. Cool. So for core, why don't I let Rod go over this, since a lot of these are his numbers and he has a lot more detail into them than I do. So Rod, do you want to take the slide?
Yeah, audio would be good. Okay, so these are, commits are really healthy, up by a significant amount, largely driven, we've had some major spikes here, and that's largely about the code and learn events that Michael championed initially, but were taken on by some other people at the two Node Interactives during the year, particularly the one in Austin. If you look at commit graphs, it's just this massive spike, and that's because we have this huge room of people that were actually actively committing to core and really enjoying it, and we had some great feedback from that. The thing we haven't tracked here is last stability. So what we want to do as well is track, are these one-offs or are these people sticking around? Because that's a true health metric. We can attract people and show them how easy and how low friction it is to get involved, and how it's not as scary as you might think. But do they stick around and keep on contributing? So I think in 2017 we'll have some better ways of measuring that. Sorry, the changes to the Node core. Right. Yeah, that's all it is, anecdotal. We need to dig into some of the GitHub data in Google BigQuery, but I've started some work on looking at that. I think Michael's also been playing as well. In terms of lines of code changed, in 2016 we had a huge amount of lines changed. And if you look at the test code by itself, it was 58% of the test code was changed, and that shout out to Rich Trott there for leading the testing effort. The smaller amount was actually in the source and lib directories, the things that we ship in the Node binary. That was 37%, which is still a lot, but not a great amount of churn there, more refinement. 90% of the lines of API document were changed, and some of that's trivial. In 2016 alone, so there's a lot of work going into improving documentation. This is really thrilling to see, and a lot of new people contributing there as well. When we look at download numbers and the slope of adoption curves for the different versions of Node, we can see that people are jumping on new versions of TS lines than we do the others, even though they are picking up the others. These are slowly decreasing, a little bit slower than the rate we'd like to see, but probably in line with expectation of how software gets phased out over time anyway. So really healthy on the download numbers, so we're tracking in the right direction there. We have close to 100 core committers now, so that's people who have commit bit on the core repo. Not all of them, 60 marks that are active in the last few months even, but 100 people have commit bit. And when you look at the number of commits coming from those contributors, the last line I think says less than half of the core changes come from the top 10 contributors. The reason that's meaningful is that that's decreased over time. When you take the top 10 in each period, you would hope that to be decreasing to show a greater spread of work across a broader number of people, and it is. So that when you take the top 10, it's less than same time last year by quite a way. So the load is being shared a lot more broadly across the contributor base. So look, pretty much all of the metrics we've been able to choose for 2016 have been surprisingly good, exceeded my expectations and hopes, and to the point where what we're interested in now is digging deeper into figuring out the nature of the quality here. So as I said, with the commits, are these people sticking around? So 2017 will be about understanding better whether these numbers we're seeing, instead of just being proxies for good measurements, whether they are actually good measurements. So hopefully we'll have better details for you later on. And just on top of this as well, there's one more metric is total download counts. Last year we said that the benchmark was 200% year-on-year growth, and in 2016 we exceeded that. We got up to 220%, so 2.2 times the number of downloads in 2015, and that's not even because we have more releases, because we actually released fewer versions in 2016 than 2016. Not many fewer, like it's a healthy amount. We've just decreased the pace a little bit. So that growth is driven purely by more people downloading binaries from Nodejs.org. So 2.2 times increase has been really encouraging. So any questions on that? Back to you, Michael.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. All right, so let's look at adoption. So we doubled again.
Michael, sorry, I keep jumping, unmuting it like as you're moving on to the next section. Question, Rod, is how now that we've sort of successfully maintained growth, are we beginning to have a better sense of what the things that we're doing that will help us continue to achieve that growth are?
No, I think, and that's our challenge. I think that's a challenge for the board. It's a challenge for the TSC and the various community groups. So I think we said this last year as well. We've succeeded by default because we simply reinvigorated the health of the project by making excitement around contributing. And we made it feel like a more exciting project. It was progress. We were adopting new features. People were excited about staying up to date with ES 6 and 7, etc., etc. So Node is healthy by default, not necessarily because of what we've been doing, particularly at a foundation level. So the challenge now for the board, and I think this is going to be something have to be a topic at the next board meeting, the in-person one. What are the things that we need to be doing that maintain and potentially increase this adoption and the health? So what do we need to understand? And we talked about this at last meeting. What are the things that we care about, the priorities, and what are those things that are going to really drive Node's adoption and health into the future? So basically the answer is no. I don't think we've got a good handle on that. That's the next phase, I think.
Great.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I think that the data that we're going to get from Code and Learn going forward is going to give us a lot of input on whether or not that particular thing works and keeps people around, which is great because that's one of the more proactive efforts that we've done that is new from when we started the foundation. We know that the initial governance model that we set up and bringing things under a foundation led to this large increase in contributors, but we basically maintained that rate of adding contributors since then, with maybe a slight uptick from 100 to 125%, and maybe that's due to Code and Learn, but we need better data to tell us exactly why. Okay, that trails right into adoption. So we doubled again. I was fairly certain that we were going to level off a little bit and not double again this year, and I was wrong. So yeah, we have around 7 million users now. That's crazy. We got some great numbers from Travis. So they're cataloging how many Node.js basically build and not, what did they call it? It's basically just a build per Node.js. And they saw an 87% increase. The reason that I think that that's probably not 100% is because they did remove support for O.10. So that probably led to a slight drop off in Q4 in how many they were doing. But that is also great for us that they deprecated O.10 and that we're forcibly removing people from O.10. That's phenomenal. We're up to about 15 million core downloads a month. The download rates are growing faster than any of our other metrics. And that's because we're doing more releases consistently, but also just adoption of releases is getting better. We can see that in all of the data. And that's so great. It means that our long-term maintenance burden is going down. It means that we get to dedicate kind of less resources over time to, long maintenance releases and that kind of stuff. So that's all fantastic. Any questions?
just want to add to that as well, Michael. The adoption, the way that people are jumping on new versions and upgrading faster now, I think that is a testament to the work that the LTS group have put in and the work that the security people have put in maintaining, increasing and maintaining that level of trust, so people know that when they hop onto a new major release line, that it's going to be stable for them in production, and that particularly when security releases come out, that it's going to be minimal and not risky. So we've really reduced the sense of risk and increased the sense of trust around Core. So, and that's something that's ongoing work. But I think we need to congratulate the folks that have been putting in the most work there. So there you go.
Yeah, and even beyond LTS, like even our new major releases that are not going into LTS have seen increases in adoption each time that we do them. Not to the level that LTS does. We're doing much better even there than even the other one. But even our more bleeding edge stuff is getting used by more users. So that's great to see as well. Cool. Okay, so let's get into some of the internal stuff. So social, we've seen huge increases in social. We've added 100,000 followers, which is awesome. We have over 400,000 now. So our followers only went up 34%, but our mentions went up 255%. Our engagement is up 300%. So not only are we increasing our direct followers, but the way that we use the channel is getting a lot more traction than ever before. And it's becoming this vehicle for us to really be able to get anything done better. If we need attention on any particular type of issue, if we want to get people engaged in a new topic, we have a lot more weight that we can throw around with these social channels. So.
Michael, can I ask you a question about some of these numbers?
Sure. Zibby's on too, so she can speak to the details.
Cool, yeah. So I think one thing that I think I would be genuinely interested in is figuring out like those mentions. How many of them come from people who are like designated leaders in the community, like say Tracy or me? If we could like go through and figure out how many of those are actually coming like from us out versus how many are actually coming in, I think that would give us a little bit more of an understanding on those numbers. Because I certainly know that I've been like mentioning us a lot on Twitter since, and so to find out if it's that we're using it more as an organization, or if we're actually getting more inbound mentions, which this number can't really tell us at the moment.
Hey Ashley, this is Zibby. I'm happy to do an analysis and try to find that just based on like when I look at the report. A ton of our tweets come from the leaders on it, but we also are getting like tweets from people outside of the leadership too. So I can, in our next reports going forward, just kind of do a breakdown of what that looks like, how many are coming from leadership versus just the general community.
Yeah, that's super awesome. Part of the insight that I'd like to see in that is that if the leadership increases the mentioning of Node, do we actually see that have a positive influence on other people like coming in and also starting to do that? If that's like useful at all. As someone who uses Twitter to communicate a lot, I'd be interested if it actually has an effect. So.
And even having details on that, do the leaders, our leadership mentioning Node, does that suggest that we are creating greater trust around the foundation and the work of the foundation? Because if that started to drop down, then would that be more of a concern, I guess?
Yeah, that's also a really interesting point. So yeah, thank you, Zibby. Also, if you need like help on that, feel free to like tap me or anyone else who's interested in helping.
Yeah, so offhand also, like, I don't know the spread between leadership and inbound, but I do know that inbound is way up because it's becoming kind of a maintenance burden, and and Zibby needs help, and we need to figure out a way to get the community involved and create some FAQs for some of the more common questions that come inbound. So.
That sounds like a great thing to tap the individual membership leaders for as well, so I'd really like to make sure that we get looped into that. That'd be great.
Yeah, this just came up last week, but it's going to land on the agenda for the community committee / individual directors. So. Cool. Any other questions about social before we move on? Okay, let's look at some of the other social channels. So Medium is way up. So we've got some 15,000 organic gain, not just people that we picked up from Twitter. We had 141,000 views and 81 reads in our channel. It's so great that they measure the difference between views and reads. So that's great. It means that, we're getting, as much traction in our own channel as we could expect from, a lot of outside channels that we also do a lot of work to try and get access to. But this is just really, really good to see. YouTube is also way, way up, mainly just because, we're getting more content into it. We did more events, so we had more videos to put in, and as well as the fireside chats kind of keep a, rolling constant parade of people coming in, as well as, it's really nice to have so much transparency around how the project works, and having all the project videos go in as well. It just drives people to the
Michael?
channel. Yeah.
So again, I think particularly with this YouTube number, I'd be really interested in seeing the breakdown between how many of this is the conference talk videos versus how much of it is our transparency meetings, and otherwise.
Yeah, we have detailed data on that. It's so detailed.
Where can I access that?
Actually, you should already be able to access it. So I'll give it to you. But I can actually
probably sharing that with all the board would be cool.
Yeah, I'll get a detailed. Actually, we had some of the data in the initial report, but it's too much data to stick into this particular meeting. But
yeah, that's totally fair.
I can definitely pull out the detailed data and get it out to the board. And we can even discuss it in the next meeting. I can get it out in between.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it would be really interesting. My hunch is that the numbers regarding our meetings on transparency are significantly lower than the numbers on the conference talks, and maybe trying to figure out how we promote one versus the other, and the content in each would be a useful action item for making these more accessible and honestly more interesting to the people watching.
Also, it's worth noting that we do know that not a lot of people watch live, either this meeting or some of the other meetings that we do, but a fair number of people do go to the meetings later and look at them, after the fact. So the fact that we have archiving and that we're not only live streaming is actually really important, and we get a lot more engagement that way.
I will just say we have actually, I think, the most people currently live watching the public board meeting today. So shout out to you watching on YouTube. Thank you for doing that.
I just want to say, maybe not oddly, but for the YouTube videos, all of the Netflix videos are higher views than pretty much everything else. So for whatever reason, maybe they're pushing people that way. So it really pushes a lot of those numbers up on just that topic alone, that company alone, for some reason.
I think it is actually also what they talk about. So we know and you can see this in the other survey that we just did, and even the survey that we did last year, but we see a really high demand for developer tools, monitoring, that kind of content, and there's not a lot of people actually doing talks about the content, but Netflix consistently gives talks about that, so that's probably one of the reasons why they have so much traction. Okay, moving along. Our store. We have a store up. You can buy stuff. So we got a little over 3,000 direct clicks here in the first month. It's been more than 29 days now. It was only 29 days when I put the slide in. But we've done a little over $1,000 in total sales. We had about 48 orders go through. And we may have a conference actually buy out the rest of the stock, which is probably good because we're considering a different vendor for some of the fulfillment end of things. We like the store. We don't know how we feel yet about the fulfillment service, so that may happen. Any questions about this?
Are those numbers regarding the men's shirts? Is that still true? Have we not sold a single woman's shirt?
Serena?
Hi, Ashley. No, we have not sold any women's shirts.
Okay. I think those stats are actually very interesting, and I just want to point out that, particularly via the community committee, that we might want to be paying attention to that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, I also thought it was interesting that we didn't include PayPal as one of our means of payment.
Oh, there's a long story about that we can get into in the private session.
Yeah.
We need to hold off on that until the private session, though, because there's some confidential stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Definitely a thought, and we're very aware. So yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, or we good? Okay. Okay, and that's the end of our slideshow. So we've got about 10 minutes for any questions from the live viewers. William and Ashley, are you on there to relay any questions to us?
So there was not any very specific questions. The discussion did definitely talk a bit about the community committee's proposal of a new channel, like kind of IRC versus Slack, and they brought up Gitter, and they were kind of talking about moderation stuff. Mm-hmm. And so that was very interesting. They had within their own. They were chatting about a couple of different things. We got some people listening from a bunch of different countries too, which is neat. I do not see other questions. Looking.
There's a bit of a delay in the video as well, so we may want to wait.
IRC pretty quiet.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, Thomas Watson brought up that Travis CI still has O.10 support, and that's actually also been my experience too.
I thought that they announced that they removed it like months ago.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't. I dropped support for O.10 a while in my project, so I can't actually confirm that. But Thomas is a relatively reliable member of the developer community, so we can look into that. But that's interesting.
Yeah, I'd be interested. Maybe it was only deprecated for new projects or something.
All right, somebody asked how 7 million users was measured, says Jeremiah.
What?
They're asking, how did we get the number for 7 million users?
Oh, okay. So primarily we rely on the top level NPM number that they have for 30-day engagement, but we also track against some other metrics that we have on just the growth of the ecosystem generally, the growth of our downloads. We look at a bunch of different ones so that if something else was leveling off and NPM still showed a big increase, we'd question the number a bit more.
Yeah.
But so far, like every other metric that we have is going up even higher for a bunch of other factors that probably don't relate directly to users. So.
Michael, so I know at least for the NPM numbers, because they're all so complicated, we actually had to write several blog posts about how we actually calculate those numbers. Do you think that we could get a post out there that would explain that to people?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think that's a good action item because we can throw numbers around, but not having documented anywhere for the public how we calculate them is makes the numbers mean less. And since we have such good ones, we should explain them.
Also, we're pretty conservative. Like we're probably about 10% lower than we should be. So yeah. We try we try to not lie. So
well, the best way not to lie is to publish how you get to the numbers.
Right. Okay.
Also, Thomas says that he uses the Travis O.10 every day. So okay. For what it's worth, that's probably a little out of scope for this meeting, but we should probably follow up on it.
I'll probably follow up with Thomas actually to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
All right, so I asked if they had any other questions, but the people who seem to be actively paying attention looks like they're pretty happy.
Maybe this is a good time. Guys, this is Faraz, just dropping in here to the call, my last call, I guess. I just wanted to congratulate William on winning.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Yeah, and thank you for your time on the board, Faraz. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. It was my
Thank you,
pleasure.
Faraz.
Okay. Well, if that's it, motion to close.
Motion to close.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining. Goodbye.
Bye.